I'm sorry about all this static, people. I'm sorry about all this static. It's I don't know, you guys. I don't know how it sounds to y'all right now, but there's a storm going on, so it's raining like cats and dogs. So I'm sure you guys hear it in the background. I don't know, you guys. I don't know how it sounds. Okay, I'm sorry. Y'all probably heard the echo. All right. Hello, good people. Hello, viewers. Hello, subscribers. Hello, inquiring minds. This live show will be kind of brief. Okay. We got the Queen C. We got Norma Thomas. Sabrina. How y'all doing? So, yeah, we're gonna get started with this conversation. We're not gonna waste too much time. This is just a quick discussion. Stay tuned because tomorrow a new video will be uploaded. So stay tuned and on the lookout for that. I'm sorry if y'all hear my echo. I'm kind of doing a playback simultaneously to see how it sounds, but so you guys, today's topic of discussion is much like what you saw in the title. How much did Ronnie Watts actually know? You know, and this question is posed because a lot of people in the community believe that Chris shared his thoughts about what he was planning on doing with his father, and judging by the demeanor of how Ronnie Watts reacted to Chris when Chris was telling him what happened, he didn't seem very shocked. And I think this is the very well thing that raised so many red flags. That raised so many red flags pertaining to this case in Chris's interview. So let's just speak hypothetical, right? Let's assume that when Chris went to pick up Ronnie from the airport prior to the polygraph test, let's just say he told him, "Hey man, you know, they're thinking that I did something, and I'm not quite sure on how I'm supposed to handle it." So quite naturally, Ronnie will probably ask him, "Well, did you? You know, did you do something? Is there something I need to know?" Chris will more than likely lie about this. He would probably say no. You know, I didn't do anything. Um, they're just asking questions. They're probing, trying to find out information. And they will proceed to go to the police station where the interview will take place. But once again, when Chris begins to talk to Ronnie, he's talking to him as if Ronnie is not out of the loop of some of the feelings and things that's been going on in Chris's relationship with Shanann. Now, by him, Ronnie is Chris's father. They seem to have a fairly, stable relationship. So it wouldn't be out the realm of reality that Chris wouldn't mention marital discord with his father. But as far as talking about killing his family, I don't believe initially that that conversation took place, especially not killing the children. If Ronnie did, for some reason, you know, ask Chris, like, okay, are you planning on divorcing Shanann? What are you planning on doing? I'm sure that's a very possible conversation that they could have had. Let's see. I'm trying to read what you're saying in the live chat. Okay, Sabrina says, I think it's odd that Chris' family was missing, and he says all Ronnie talked about on the way to the airport was sports. I don't know if I believe that. I don't know if I believe that either, Sabrina. I think it's possible that, like I was just saying, Ronnie would naturally, ask, okay, what type of new information the cops find out? What's going on? More than likely, it's pertaining to the fact that his granddaughters are involved. Okay, not so much of Shanann, but his granddaughters are involved. So he's trying to find out, what's going on, what happened to the girls, where everyone is at. So I'm sure that Chris did not tell him, well, I feel like they're looking at me like I did this. Because at that time, Chris is still in fairy tale world thinking that no one is suspecting him and that his story is checking out. So maybe they talked about sports just to, like, ease some of the tension that was in the car, because this is a very sticky situation. I mean, you're picking your father up, telling him, "Hey, I called you all the way to Colorado, so you can come down to the police station. They're going to interview me and give me a polygraph test," which is something that you usually only do to a suspect. Okay? You usually only do that to a suspect because you need to clear their name. So Ronnie, being of age, I'm sure he have experienced something like this. Whether it was watching it on TV, maybe it was someone he knew, something along those lines. So I'm sure he posed the question, you know, uh, is there anything you need to tell me? So I'm pretty sure Chris went on to tell him, hey, me and Shanann, we had a argument, we had an emotional conversation. Um, we discussed separating and getting a divorce and how I'm not happy with her, she's not happy with me, things of that nature. So when Chris began to talk to Ronnie about this in the interview when he was confessing, I think that explains why Ronnie didn't seem so surprised. Now, what I can't explain is once Chris began to tell Ronnie how he killed Shanann and how Shanann killed the girls, Ronnie didn't seem surprised at all about that as well. It seemed like he was acting. It seemed like he had already heard this story, and because he knew they were being recorded and possibly on camera, he just responded accordingly the way he was supposed to keep down suspicion. The Queen C says he looked so shocked when Ronnie put his head down or head in his hands. I don't remember what he did, but he said Jesus or oh Lord. Yeah, it was something similar to that. Norma says, I think if Ronnie knew, he would have stopped him. Well, this the thing, Norma. Ronnie and Chris lived in two different states, right? I don't think it was much Ronnie could have done to stop him. Now, if you're meaning he would have talked to him and told him, hey, this isn't the way to go, then yeah, you're probably right. He more than likely told him you need to get a divorce. If you're not happy, get a divorce. The Queen C says, so if he was a suspect, I've always wondered that why did they allow Chris to pick up Ronnie? Usually an officer will pick the parent or relative up and bring them to the station. Well, to answer that question, the Queen C, it's because Chris went and picked Ronnie up before he was due down at the police station. Okay? This wasn't a case of Chris was at the police station, Ronnie arrived at the airport, and the police let Chris leave the police station to go and pick Ronnie up. He did this prior to coming there. So, he was still able to do stuff like that at the time. Plus, I'm sure the detectives didn't mind Ronnie being there because they probably assumed, which is what we come to find out, that if they couldn't get a confession out of him, his father probably could. Okay, Sabrina says, I wonder about the note he wrote at his parents in North Carolina. He actually convinced his family Shanann would hurt him or the girls, so much that his mother still thinks Shanann killed the girls. Okay, Sabrina, so you absolutely right, right? Um, he wrote that letter on purpose. He goes on to talk about that inside that book. He wrote that letter on purpose to try to set it up so once he killed Shanann, people will believe him if he said Shanann killed the girls. But on the contrary, Chris's mother does not believe that Shanann killed the kids. And actually, tomorrow, guys, I have a video that's coming out about Chris's mother and father. So please, guys, check that video out tomorrow when it's uploaded. I'm sorry about that, but no, Chris's mother does not think that Shanann did it. Still, she thought that at the time, which was justified because of the situation. You have to keep in mind a few things. You have to keep in mind that Chris is her son. So her biasness automatically goes towards her son, much like any parent would. Second thing you have to keep in mind is that Cindy and Ronnie don't know anything about a murder. They just think Shanann's missing. So once they found out that Shanann and the kids are dead, they found that out at the time that Chris confessed it. And when he confessed it as Shanann killed them. He killed her in retaliation. So after that point, Chris is taken to jail. He's not free anymore. He didn't have phone calls. And when he did have a phone call, it wasn't set up for him to be able to discuss that because they knew that people are listening to phone calls. Chris had a lawyer. His lawyer advised him not to speak on the case. Cindy, she talks about all of these things in her interview, which is why I'm doing a video on it. I'm going to break down the interview that she did, and we're going to analyze some of the things she said and put in perspective some of the things that they were talking about. I'm also going to do the same thing with Ronnie, with his police interview. I'm going to also do the same thing with that. I'm going to put it all in one nice, lengthy video for you guys. So stay tuned and enjoy that when it drops tomorrow, okay? But Sabrina also says, agreed, Queen, because he also disposed of some items he had in his trunk on the way to pick up his dad at the airport. Shouldn't they have been following him? Well, yeah, once again, he went to pick the father up before the interview, so the police didn't have anything to do with whatever Chris did prior to him coming back into that police station. Queen C says, I feel so sad because Bella and Cece and Nico would have been taking Santa pics together this year. The three of them. Yes. Yes, that's true. They would have been doing that, you know. And it is sad and unfortunate that that's not the case. And Chris has the nerves to pray and talk to their pictures on a daily basis. The nerve of him. But this is a very common thought process within the community. People think that Chris's mother and father are just as evil and vile as him. I beg to differ. Um, I don't look at them any different than any other parent in this situation. Okay? They love their child. It's going to be hard for them to, grasp the concept of their child killed his wife and their granddaughters. That's a very hard concept to grasp. It's even harder It's even harder to grasp the concept that Gianna Marie, what's up? How you doing? It's even harder to grasp the concept that he killed someone, let alone his wife. So even once you begin to wrap your mind around he killed his wife, there's no way you can wrap your mind around him killing his children as well. And a good example of this is the viewers right now. The viewers and the people who are interested in this case right now. If you ask an average viewer on their opinions on this case, one thing that they will say, which is very common, is I can't wrap my mind around how Chris came to do something like this. Well, if you are able to think that way, imagine how the people who birthed him feel. They can't wrap their mind around it at all. At all. Keep in mind as well, Chris was not forthcoming with them. Chris hasn't to this day, until the book came out, he has not told his parents in detail what he did. So is it their fault that they're feeling like their son can possibly be innocent? Is it their fault for feeling like it's possible that the original story that Chris gave can have some validity to it? No, it's not their fault. That is what a parent should feel. That is what a parent should do. You shouldn't just automatically jump on the other side of the fence. Now, of course, once ample evidence is provided to said party, your opinion should change at that point. You know, you have to change your opinion at that point. So, once this book came out, guys, that's when Ronnie and Cindy found out the actual truth on what happened in this case. Prior to that, that was not the conversation at hand. When Chris talked to his mother and father while he's been in prison, it's about formal things like, how's the family doing? What are you guys doing for the holidays? Which sports team won? How much are you paying my lawyer? Is your lawyer doing a good job and doing right by you while you're in prison, Chris? Things of that nature. Very parenting types of conversations. Sabrina says, I think there is definitely dysfunction in that family, but at the end of the day, there are just normal people. But Chris Watts is not ordinary, so we assume his family can't be. Nicely said, Sabrina. Nicely said. The Queen C says, I'm going to say this, like me or hate me. At one point, Chris was a good dad, loving husband. Pussy, especially side hoe pussy, has power over a man. Lord, if that ain't the truth. If that ain't the truth. Now you put it in a very harsh and very truthful, forthcoming way, the Queen C. But your statement, nevertheless, is very, very true. Side hoe pussy has ultimate power over a man. Okay? Now, women are not excused from this, but that's a different topic for a different day. The Queen C also says, like there was a snap because of NK that hit in his mind to kill all because of his side bitch. If you never had a side dude or side hoe, I don't think y'all would get it, the power of a side bitch. You're so blunt with your comments. You're so blunt with your comments. But yeah, you know, it's like that. Unfortunately, it's like that. But for the sake of being political correct, Queen C, how about you just use the term mistress? Mistress. Mistress sounds a lot better than side hoe or side bitch. You get me? You also say, like, okay, I just read that. But I totally get what you're saying. You know, I get it. And most people probably get that as well. Now, they probably don't um, agree with it, but they most certainly have to understand where you're coming from with that statement. But pertaining to Ronnie, right? Thanks, Gianna. Pertaining to Ronnie, as a father, and your son is having problems in his marriage. Now, typically, a woman would naturally think, well, you're supposed to talk your son out of doing horrible things, or instead of encouraging him to get a divorce, maybe you should encourage marriage counseling, or talking to somebody. Go talk to somebody about what's going on. And in hindsight, you're right. You know, in hindsight, you're right. But when fathers have relationships with their sons, a lot of times when they have discussions like this, a father would typically give a son advice based on what they experience in their lives themselves. So Ronnie probably have saw this scenario before in one form or fashion. It could have been one of Ronnie's siblings. It could have been one of Ronnie's friends or family members. But he probably have seen when a man in his family has been in a fairly unstable relationship. It's probably best to just move on. You know, so I wouldn't put too much judgment on Ronnie for being on Chris's side. I wouldn't do that. It's kind of his duty. It's his father. That's kind of what he's supposed to do. He doesn't owe any loyalty to Shanann. Cindy Watts doesn't owe any loyalty to Shanann. All right, Sabrina. See you later. Thanks for joining. They don't owe any loyalty to Shanann. They owe their loyalty to Chris. That's all. So I noticed that, a lot of people in the community, they feel like Sandy and Ronnie were supposed to feel all the feelings that we felt towards Shanann and her family. No. Now, they are supposed to feel that way towards their grandchildren, yes. But Shanann is a flip of the coin. They can choose to care, they can choose not to care. But either choice that they make, we should not judge them based upon that. We should not judge them based upon that. Not the public. We should not judge them based upon that decision. It's very hard to say. A lot of people speak their opinions based on what they would do in this situation, which is pretty much the only way you can give an opinion. Some people just simply are just victim biased. Okay? Now, there's nothing wrong with being victim biased. Okay? But in certain times, being victim biased can bring forth ignorance. Okay? And I'm not saying in the case of the Watts family murder that being victim bias is producing ignorance, but in cases, period, this tends to happen. It tends to happen, and it's like a contagious disease. Let me give you an example of what I mean. You can take 10 neutral-minded people and place them in a room. If one person says something along the lines of being victim biased, the other 9 people who are present in the room will subconsciously feel that they should do the same Because if they do the opposite, they can cast or be met with the same judgment that the suspect or the person who committed a crime receives on a daily basis. Hello, Chris Man, how you doing? So it makes them kind of nervous to speak their true opinion. So you know what people like that do? Out of the 10 people, you have 2 people who feel like the opposite of victim biases, right? But once again, they're afraid to speak those opinions because they don't want to feel the judgment, right? Guess what they do? They go to YouTube and they look for videos and content creators who create videos along the lines of what they're thinking and feeling, and they gravitate towards that. So their feelings can be projected, but they're not the ones who's actually saying it. So they don't have to catch none of the backlash that goes along with it, which is how that whole subculture of Chris Watts supporters or Watts supporters have came to emergence. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that subculture, but it's out there. It's out there. And it's sad. But, that's the day and age we live in. Everybody has an opinion, and YouTube provides a platform for everyone to do so. So, I just wanted to riddle your brains a little bit with this thought, you guys. Like I said earlier, tomorrow I'm uploading a video where I'm going to analyze and break down Cindy and Ronnie's interviews that they did with the news station and what they did with the police. Okay? I'm going to break those down and analyze those. So that's going to be kind of lengthy. Be looking for maybe about a 30 to 40-minute video, but it should be interesting. You should be able to listen to it or watch it from the beginning to the end. Sorry about that. So I appreciate you. Gianna says, will Chris Watts ever get shanked, KP? No, ma'am. Not by the laws of what he did in his crime. He won't get shanked for what he did in his crime. But his way of living in prison, he can be bound to be shanked because of something like that. He can violate one of the laws of prison and may get killed or stabbed or something like that. But Chris is in a prison with people just like him. He's on cell blocks with people just like him, or people who've done things so morally corrupt that they shall not cast judgment on him because they are in the same place as him. That is, and it's to me, and that's another conversation for another video, but I'm just going to speak on it a little bit. To me, the biggest hypocrisy exists in prison. I do understand that some people do things that land them in prison, which doesn't make them a criminal, but they violated the law and have to serve time. But the majority of prison is filled with criminals, right? And I don't understand for the life of me, how does a criminal who kills, let's say, a 46-year-old man and his 42-year-old wife, how can you press judgment on another man because he killed his family? You both committed the act of murder. You both took loved ones away from other loved ones. You both have to sit in prison and serve your time for this. You both have to go through those same procedures together. How can one look down on the other? My philosophy is, when it comes to a human being and what you feel is justifiable and right, does it matter that a human's life was taken, Or does it only matter pertaining to their age? Meaning, does a child being killed mean more than a 36-year-old person being killed? Because the last time I checked, that person became 36 because they grew up from a child. They're somebody's child. They were a child. So the value of their life shouldn't be less than the value of a child's life. You know, it shouldn't be. Life is life. Killing is killing. Hurt and pain exist within the family members regardless. But in prison, they have their own rules and morals they go by. So it doesn't matter that you killed an innocent old man. If you killed a child, you deserve to get your ass whooped. And I get it, but I don't subscribe to it. It's bullshit to me. But I'm not going to talk you guys' ear off any longer. Be sure to catch the next live show. If you haven't watched all the videos so far posted on my channel, please do so. Be looking forward to the video that's being uploaded tomorrow about Chris's mother and father. And stay tuned as we go on further and further. Okay? I appreciate you guys for subbing, for commenting, for watching, for being open-minded. I appreciate it. I hope everybody has a nice day. For me, it's raining cats and dogs. It's cold as hell. And that's a bad example to use. Cold as hell. That doesn't make sense. It's colder. It's colder than snow vagina. I said it. It's colder than snow vagina. And that is very cold, although snow does not have a vagina. But that's the end of this live show, you guys. I will see you guys next time. Hope you have a good day once again. Peace.